Well, Fanalysis combines the data made popular in fantasy football with the latest sports betting trends to find you the sharpest angles. And for that, we welcome back the lead betting analyst from Pickswise, Jared Smith. Jared, good to see you once again. Week 15, I can't believe, man, the season is almost over. And here we are. This first game that I know you want to talk about is one that really wasn't shaping up to be all that important. But now the Panthers have a shot to win the division after the Buccaneers lost. So this week, they're a 2-point favorite in Carolina against the Steelers. So what do the analytics tell you about this one? Let's start with that.
Yeah, Carolina trending up defensively, especially 4-0 against the spread in their last four, covering by double digits. In that span, they're a top 3 EPA per play defense, and they're allowing just 15 points per game. So we look at Carolina's defense, and you give a lot of the credit to Steve Wilks. And it was just a fascinating situation that kind of transpired for him to get this second chance as interim head coach. Of course, Carolina's been through so much turmoil this year, firing Matt Rule, trading away Christian McCaffrey, releasing Baker Mayfield. He pops up in LA 48 hours later and wins a football game. So it's just been such a very unique season for this Carolina team. But here they are with 4 games to go, 1 game back, controlling their own destiny for the NFC South. And Steve Wilks, everything I've heard from Panthers camp this week, Shaq Thompson calling him a true alpha. And again, the situation with Arizona didn't end well. He's hired 1 year, had a terrible season. They fire him right on the spot. Cliff Kingsbury gets hired. They draft Kyler Murray. I personally don't think he got a fair shake in Arizona. Now he's getting one with Carolina. We'll see if he's the guy long term. But right now, this Panthers team definitely rallying around their man.
I mean, they are definitely pointing in the right direction, but I want to take a closer look at some historical stat here. Now, I'm not sure if this is very relevant, but since you're talking about coaches, Mike Tomlin is 62% against the spread as an underdog. His teams are absolutely live dogs. And this week, the word is Kenny Pickett availability is certainly in question. Trubisky and Mason Rudolph have both gotten more snaps with the starters this week than Kenny Pickett. So, I mean, that begs to question, whether or not they're going to be turning to Trubisky, who had 3 interceptions last week in relief, or if the red light is going to be shining for Rudolph.
Yeah, right. The market isn't really that decisive on which quarterback really matters for Pittsburgh here. And there's been so much upheaval with this situation all week, but we haven't really seen a whole lot of line movement besides going from 2 to maybe 2.5. We'll call it a soft 3 on Carolina right now. So about a point is what the market's telling you it matters. Downgrade from Pickett to either Rudolph or Trubisky. And I don't think it really matters either way, because I really like this Carolina defense. And I think when you look at them schematically, they can do what the Jets can kind of do a little bit. We've talked about this, on the air with their 2 bookend corners, Horn and Henderson. These are first-round top 10 picks. And in the middle, they've got 2 just stuff linebackers who can stop the run, and Thompson and Lobu. So I really like what this Panthers defense has done, and it probably won't matter who's under center for Pittsburgh in this game. On the other side, I really like what Sam Darnold's done. He's grading out about an average quarterback, through his first 2 starts. That's still a big upgrade from what we saw with Baker Mayfield and PJ Walker. The running game's been phenomenal, averaging 5 yards per carry in this little 2-game stretch with Darnold. It's Hubbard, Foreman, and Blackshear, 3-headed monster. They're all fresh right now because McCaffrey got a big, heavy chunk of the workload in the early half of the season. So it's just a really good situation for Carolina, trending up at home, laying less than a field goal. Bad situation for Pittsburgh, trending down. And I really don't like what I've seen from the Steelers defense. Not the vintage steel curtain unit. TJ Watt, 22.5 sacks last year. He's 2.5 this year. When you have that kind of production decrease, very hard to make up the ground that Pittsburgh's asking for. So it's not a bad Steelers defense, but not great. And obviously the offense very unsettled at quarterback, facing a really tough defense. It's just a really good spot for the Panthers, I think, at under a field goal.
I mean, it seems the eye test and the analytics are both agreeing on which way to lean on this one. The Chargers, they're 3-point home favorites against Tennessee. Hey, listen, Justin Herbert has the Chargers playing some great ball right now, maybe because they're all healthy and this offense is finally healthy together right now. The Titans have lost 3 straight. Is there a trend you see continuing here or one breaking?
This kind of is the crossroads, I think, for both of these teams. It's a big game. Big game in the conference standings, which, is the tiebreaker for the wild card. Tennessee, I think, should still win the division, but you never know in this crazy NFL, especially if they drop this game, what the rest of the division will do. Indy's out of it, but Jacksonville still has a stone's throw. It's just, it's really a Tennessee team, I think, that plays their best football with their backs against the wall. And that's what we're seeing with the trend here. Mike Vrabel, 21-8 against the spread when Tennessee is an underdog of 3 points or more. And it fits the narrative of this Tennessee team. They've been feisty over the years. I know they were the #1 seed last year, but they're not that sexy team on offense that we love to gravitate towards. They like to run the football, and that's something the Chargers defense has really struggled against. Miami could not take advantage of that. Miami is a bit of a unique offense, a little more finesse, not as much power. Derrick Henry, I don't even need to use an adjective. I think you know exactly where I'm going here. Bottom 5 Chargers defense against the run this year. A lot of those analytics that we look at, rush DVOA, it's really been a struggle. And they're an undermanned defense that, coming off a game where they barely held on against the Miami team that doesn't want to challenge them. Tennessee's going to challenge them. Now, on the other side, Justin Herbert can absolutely wreck this handicap. Keenan Allen and Mike Williams being back, I think, is huge. We'll see if the Titans throw a change up here, because Herbert's really poor. He's graded out very badly against the blitz this year, but the Titans blitz the lowest amount in the NFL. If I'm Mike Vrabel, I might go against my tendency this week, and I might throw some blitzes and some exotic schemes at Herbert, see how he handles it, see if Tennessee mixes it up, because this is a big spot for them if they want to keep their playoff hopes alive.
To support that fact with actual numbers, Herbert's clean pocket passer rating is 78.4. His blitzed rating is 60.6. So his number drops dramatically when he faces pressure. But I do want to stick with some more stats here and focus a little bit more on Derrick Henry, because last week he had that big game, 121 rushing yards, averaging 7.1 yards per carry, but he only had 2 yards after the half. And the 4 games prior to that, his average yards per carry was 2.7. I mean, he could run for 200 yards and the Titans still lose this game, because that's almost what happened. It's pretty much what happened last week.
Yeah, turnovers are going to be key. Ryan Tannehill turned it over a bunch in that game. He fumbled it. He threw an interception. To me, the game script will matter here. If the Chargers get off to a fast start and they force Tennessee to play from behind, like they had to do against Jacksonville, like they had to do against Philly, the game's going to get out of hand. If Tennessee starts on the front foot, takes a lead, relies on their defense, which the secondary can be a little soft, but up front, they're fantastic. Jeffrey Simmons in the middle is probably the best run stopper in the league. So Austin Eckler, I wouldn't expect to have a big game here. It's going to have to be Herbert. And if Tennessee can pull in front, I think that's the tempo they prefer to play at. If you're catching the full 3, that's a very good bet. I think if this comes down to 2.5 on game day, I'd be a little bit less intrigued, because first of all, I don't trust Chargers as a favorite. Herbert's numbers as a favorite have been terrible over the years, and the Chargers like to play from the underdog role. So it's like both teams kind of like that feisty dog role. It's Tennessee that gets to assume it this week, and I'll have a little bit more faith in Vrabel than I do, Staley and Herbert in this spot.
Yeah, well, I mean, and you're right about Eckler. I mean, his between the tackles yards per carry is terrible, but he does have great on the outside run and short receptions as well. Jets and Lions. All right, so here we go. Zach Wilson is back as a starting quarterback. This line has flipped to the Jets at 1.5-point home dogs to the Lions. The Lions are clearly on a tear offensively, but this Jets defense seems to provide them with maybe a challenge they haven't seen recently.
Yeah, this is a fun game. And obviously sucks for Mike White. But I think I'm fascinated. The drama is very intriguing now with Zach Wilson, because everyone loves a redemption story. And my social media timeline was blowing up with, how can you be happy for Zach today? Trying to get – people make mistakes. His only crime in life so far has been immaturity, and he's had a month in the penalty box. And we'll see how he bounces back from this, because let's be honest, 2 years ago, he was a top 5 pick. And I think the Jets really want to see what he is made of. And this is an opportunity to come back from some of those depths that, sometimes teach people the most important lessons in life. So fascinated to see how that matchup plays out. The good news is he's facing a Lions defense that has struggled this year. the even better news, Zonovan Knight in the backfield has been an absolute revelation. I was in the belief that once Breece Hall went down, that was it. The Jets aren't going to be able to run the ball very well anymore. And I've never been happier to be wrong about that take. Zonovan Knight, almost 3.5 yards per rush after first contact this year. Let me give you some of the running backs that he's ahead of in that category. And this is a very impressive list. It's guys like Aaron Jones and Miles Sanders and Jonathan Taylor and Kenneth Walker and Christian McCaffrey and Cordero Patterson and Dameon Pierce. He's getting tougher yards, albeit a small sample, than those guys in the early stage of his career. So I want to see him get a ton of run in this game, and I think that's going to be the guy that Zach needs to rely on the most in the safety blanket here. On the other side, the Jets defense, the top 5 unit, hands down, nose to toes. They shut down the Bills for a second time in a month, and I think this is going to be a really big challenge for Jared Goff, managing up, toughest defense they've faced in this little stretch. I think the Jets defense better than the Bills. I think they have the best defense in the division. So I think that's where they win this game, and they rally, hopefully, behind Zach, because I think it's fascinating stuff with him returning to the lineup this week.
And that's why you're taking the money line on this one. And one quick note about Bam Knight, he's at 19 broken tackles this year, which is already top 10 in the NFL. He's played in 3 games, and this guy is breaking tackles.
I'm betting his touchdown prop this week, Steve. I don't bet a lot of touchdown props. You know that. I'm betting his props this week. This is the guy, I think, that carries the Jets to a win on Sunday. You're going to be talking a lot on the talk shows next week about Bam Knight, I think.
Yeah, he's going to take Rookie of the Year votes away from Garrett Wilson. Jared Goff has the second best passer rating in the NFL on passes of 0 to 9 yards. But his intermediate and his deep routes are 5th bottom in passer rating. Plus, he has the 4th most turnover-worthy plays. Is Jared Goff going to be as much of a reason why the Lions win or lose this game as anybody?
Yeah, and so the outdoor vibes are strong. Jared Goff has not played a lot of outdoor games this year. They've played a lot of road games, but a lot of those road games were against teams like Dallas and Minnesota that have domes. The toughest defense he's faced outdoors this year, the New England Patriots, and you and I scored as many points as the Lions did in that game. It was a big fat bagel. So I think going outdoors facing a tough defense is not something Jared really likes to do. This Jared might, but Jared Goff does not. Ben Johnson, though, deserves all the credit in the world. And if there's anybody that can scheme out some points in this game, it's Ben. And I'm fascinated to see what kind of game plan they employ here, because when you look at this schedule of defenses the Lions have faced during this 6-game against the spread winning streak, their one loss was at home to the Bills, the toughest defense they faced. All the other games, Green Bay, Chicago, Giants, Jags, Vikings, all outside the top 22 in DVOA. The Jets are a top 3 weighted DVOA team if you take into account the back half of their schedule. This is going to be the toughest challenge, I think, for Jared Goff in this Lions offense all season.
This is why analytics are important. It's not just about last game activity. And by the way, if you did want to parlay Jets money line and Bam with a touchdown, that's at plus 250. You want it?
Oh, sprinkle that, Steve.
just sprinkle
sprinkle that.
All right. Well, that's how Jared values his best bets and his sprinkles of Week 15. Make sure you check out our other segment where he focuses exclusively on the Jets and the Giants. For Jared Smith of Pickswise, I'm Steve Overmyer. This is Fanalysis.